Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Abigail Snyder's podcast, Her Anatomy. Today we have special guest Janet Nelson. So let me tell you how I know this lady. We've known each other for, I think, like 10 years, believe it or not, maybe more
It
than
was
that.
that long.
So we know each other because her son, David, is one of my very good friends. And how I met David was at the YMCA. I was working at the YMCA at the time, and David would go on this elliptical machine for like you guys like 2 hours. Like he would be on that thing busting it out. And so patrons would come up to me and be like, he's on there too long. And I'd be like, yeah, that stinks. Okay. I don't know. It's like I'm upset that you're upset about it, but I'm also just like there's like 18 other elliptical machines. I thought it was like funny and I loved how dedicated he was. So finally one day I walked up to David and I was like, "Hey," for the first time ever speaking to this person. I said, "Hey," I was like, "I see you in here all the time, doing really good on this elliptical machine. Are you planning? Are you preparing for anything like a marathon?" And David said, "No, I'm about to turn 30, whatever it was. No, I think it was 28, and I'm gay. And in that life or in that world, it is basically like I'm 50 years old, so I have to look really really good and I have to be on this thing going at it." It was just like this guy opened up to me. I had no idea the things that I was about to hear, and he it was just like from that point on we became such good friends. Like he was just such a bright light, like a vulnerable person that was just like anybody going up to talk to him, he would just be so open to it. And so now David and I have we had so many memories since then, and that's how I know his mom,
Wow.
Janet, because we go to the beach a lot and we go on these trips. I think the best last one we went to was at what's it called? Southport.
Yeah.
We rode the ferry. It was so much fun. So, getting into it, we're going to talk today. Janet has been graciously agreed to talk about how she grew up and about her two pregnancies that she had. And you guys, it's insane what happened. So I can't wait till we get to that part. Let's start though. Tell us where you grew up.
I grew up in Reidsville, North Carolina, and I was an only child, two parents, very loving, great childhood, no issues except the normal ones.
Did you grow up in a church home or did you?
Yes, I grew up Methodist.
Okay.
My parents, my grandparents were actually um, instrumental in founding the First Methodist Church of Reidsville. And
Wow.
I grew up in that church, going to youth group, all those things. So yes, I had a Christian upbringing and found out later in my heritage that my mother's family was Presbyterian.
Hmm.
And so when I met my husband Ken, he was a member of a Presbyterian church. And so we visited both and settled on the Presbyterian church.
How did you meet Ken? Let's back up.
How
Let's
did I
back
meet?
up. Ken's her husband.
This is funny. Okay, so we lived in two different apartment complexes at the same time. After after college graduation,
Where'd you
he
go to college?
it's Pfeiffer University now, but Pfeiffer College got a degree in early childhood education. Not my first job in Reedsville, taught 10 years in a small rural school.
You taught, what did you teach?
What did I teach? Started out in first grade, moved to third grade, back to second grade, and then kindergarten the last. So
Mhm.
K1, 2, 3,
How many years total have you been a
10,
teacher?
10.
10. Okay.
Then when my children were born, Mitchell, who is 39, and David now, who's 35. Uh, when they were born, I decided to stay home.
Keep going.
And I directed a Mother's Morning Out program after that. And while the boys were there in Mother's Morning Out in preschool. And then ever since then, I've not done any paid work. I've done a lot of volunteering, but nothing where I got paid.
Okay. How do you feel about that? Do you like that? Or is that something that you were like, I want to go back and do something, anything, or I want to go back to teaching where I'm getting paid? Or do you just not
No,
care?
no. After the boys were in high school, I guess, I started looking for a teaching assistant job. I did not want to be a teacher in charge of everything with, a family and all those kinds of things. So I applied for several, but never was interviewed or anything like that. And I got to thinking, I don't know if this is so, but how does a classroom teacher feel about having a certified, experienced assistant? Maybe I've got too much.
They would be intimidated, maybe.
Maybe that, or, of course, there people who are looking, well, the pay for teachers is bad enough, but what about an assistant? And I was just looking for something, to do and not worried about the money, or I enjoyed working one-on-one with students instead of being in charge of the whole classroom. I liked going in and, having this group of kids. So I did, after when the boys were small, I was at PTA, several jobs in the PTA. I did tutoring in the schools. Our church had relationships with a community center that was in a low income housing development. I did tutoring there. So I did a lot of volunteering instead of getting something I got paid for.
Gotcha. What do you love about that let's go back to that. You said that
you can see that you're making a difference right then and there, usually. And you have more, you don't have the discipline issues, you don't have are they paying attention issues, because you're right there, small group, no more than 2 or 3, or one-on-one. And I just like that more so than being the classroom teacher.
Do you feel like when you get to see them kind of light up and be like, oh, they got it, what does that make you feel? Like, what sensation?
Oh, it's just like a light comes on and you're, yes.
So communication and being communicating with people is probably something that really gets you're passionate about it.
Well, and there's certain areas of education that I'm really passionate about. Grammar. Both of my boys are very.
I can attest to that. And my mom is the same way. They're just, they just make sure you say proper grammar.
Yeah. And that will get me. In fact, yesterday I took my picked our grandkids up, took them to dance lessons after school. And my oldest grandson is in 4th grade. So I'm asking him, okay, did you learn this? And David's in the car too, and we're all asking him grammar questions. And
Mitchell,
of Mitchell's children, Cam.
Your grandkids are giving people grammar lessons?
I am. I'm saying, did you learn this? Have they talked to you about this? And then I said, this is what bugs me about grammar more, that I hear this. I said, I do not want you to say, I've seen it. Please do not say that.
I just scan my brain for each person I know in my life that says, I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it.
No.
Yeah.
That one, and there's several that get under my skin.
What's one more?
One more. He went missing.
He went missing.
Mm-hmm.
When
somebody is missing and they get on the news, they say he went missing. That's not proper. Went is the past tense of go. You can go, you don't go missing. You either are missing or you're not missing. You don't go missing.
Oh.
So he went missing is not proper. He is missing.
He is missing.
But they say they went, you can't.
I bet they're saying that because they're like, it's possible he'll be found.
But still,
it's improper. But they're trying to be optimistic. Lo and behold, some people in the world will be optimistic.
If he is missing, it's still doesn't mean he's not going to be found. I don't know. It just gets under my skin.
So communication and grammar is definitely something that Janet is passionate about.
Yes.
Let's go back and will you walk us through how you and Ken met?
Okay.
Something about
Okay, so we lived in two separate apartment complexes at the same time. The first time we didn't know each other at all. There was a lake in that apartment complex. He lived on one side of the lake and I lived on the other.
Okay.
And I had two cats, two kittens, and the apartment complex did not allow pets, or especially cats, I guess. And so I had to move. So I moved across town and I was teaching at the time, so I had to find somewhere it didn't add any extra time to my drive, which was 30 to 40 minutes every day.
A lot.
And so I found this older complex and they were okay with pets. And so I moved in and there ended up being an apartment in between us. I was in one apartment. There was an apartment in between us. He was on the other.
Okay.
He had to move. And so he moved from the other apartment complex over there because his brother, who's 10 years younger, needed to go to Page High School or wanted to go to Page High School. And that his mother had moved outside of at that time, city county schools, had moved to the county schools. So he needed an address for being able to go to Page High School. So that was in walking distance of Page High School. So he moved there so his brother could have an address. His brother spent some time with him in the afternoons after school. And so that's why he was there.
Wow.
And so
you were there because of some kittens. He was there to help his brother out. And y'all just found yourself.
We'd end up leaving for work at the same time in the morning. So we started, saying, hey, good morning, whatever. That's what started it. And then I left. I would go bike riding or whatever. I didn't have any, neither one of us had a roommate. We were both alone in our apartment. And I would, in the afternoon, do some kind of activity after getting home from teaching. And I went bike riding, and he was sitting out on his patio working. He was working.
Ken is one of the most, I think he probably is the hardest working person that I know.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, he is. Like, we'll be at the beach and we're out on the beach doing what beach people do. And Ken is out there putting pine needles in the yard, planting flowers. He always has a project. He's fixing the deck. He's fixing the swing. He's a hard worker. Continue.
Whatever. So he was out working and so I rode past and stopped, and we said, hey, how are you? And introduced ourselves properly at that point.
Did you think he was cute?
Yeah. And I said, would you like to go bike riding?
You asked him?
I asked him. And he said, no, I don't think so. I'm working. Fine.
I'm not surprised.
So we talked a few more minutes, and then he said, you know what? I think I will. So he went and got his bicycle. That's how it started.
So first Ken chose work, which is typical Ken, but then he thought about it and he's like, wait, that's kind of stupid. Let me go out with this gorgeous young lady who's asking me to go on a bike ride.
Okay. And then I found out later he and his brother had been checking me out.
And there it is. I knew it was going to come.
So that's what happened.
I love that. So then how long did y'all date before you got engaged?
Engaged 18 months. We got married within 2 years.
That's a good time. And then how long were you engaged before you got married?
6 months. We got engaged at Christmas, and then we got married in June.
So you had a summer wedding?
Yeah.
What color were your bridesmaids' dresses?
They were sort of a lime green, but had a little white.
Was Connie a bridesmaid?
Yes.
Okay, Connie's like one of her best friends that goes.
My college roommate.
Yeah, they're like such best friends. So How old were you when you got married?
28.
28. That's a good age. Okay. So you were teaching at the time.
I was teaching, driving 30 plus minutes one way to, to work.
And Ken was working at
He worked at Shamrock Corporation as a manager of the plant, making cigarette tipping paper. What he did.
cigarette tipping paper.
That's the paper that goes around the tip of the cigarette that has the print, it was printed with the name. It was perforated with little holes so the air would come. I learned a lot.
That's so cool.
So yeah, that's what he was doing.
By the way, we're in North Carolina, and tobacco products are very prominent in this area.
They're not so much anymore, but
One of my best friends, her husband is, I mean, he's got some really good benefits working for not J.K. Rowling. That's an author. Who am I thinking of? J.R. Reynolds. Reynolds, yeah.
It's Reynolds America now.
Is it?
Yeah, my parents worked for American Tobacco in Reedsville. And my aunt and uncle also, my mother's brother.
See what I mean? Like, and my dad, Lord have mercy, that man tells us every day how when he was 12 years old, he pulled tobacco.
Yep.
And he's like, you're not a real man if you drink water. So yes. I'm about to be a physical therapist. So, I'm like, sir, you need to drink water. Hydration is the central most important thing, but not to get off on a tantrum about water and how important it is.
So anyway,
so he was working for the tobacco, and then he
was working for Shamrock Corporation, which print not specifically for the tobacco, but they were into printing, and their big thing was gift wrap. But he started the division, set up the division that printed the tipping paper for cigarette companies, Lorillard, Reynolds, a little bit for American Tobacco. Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
So they printed the name of the, like, Kent cigarettes or whatever, Lucky Strike. They print it. Well, Lucky Strike didn't have a filter. So it's that little white paper that goes around the filter, and then they put little tiny holes for the air to get through when you inhaled. So that's what they did. They printed that paper with the name, put the little perforation holes in it, and slid it down to the size they could put it on cigarettes.
Wow.
So he managed that.
He did. And he did other jobs later with the printing. So thank you for that clarification, because he didn't stay working with a tobacco company like you said. He went on to do really cool jobs with gift wrapping. He did really well too. Like he did good. So you guys were married when you were 28, and how long after you got married did you have Mitchell, your first?
4 years. I was 32.
You're 32. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about Mitchell's labor and delivery, and tell me.
You want labor and delivery, or you want the other stuff?
I want the other stuff. Tell me what it was like being pregnant with him 9 months.
It was horrible. It was definitely, I had what were they called? It has a name. David tried to tell me to remember it. What Princess Kate has.
Oh, it's not
something Gravidarum.
Oh, it's give me a second. It's
he wrote it to Mom. Remember this.
Gravidarum.
Yeah, something. It has a hyperkinesis. Isn't that what it is?
Hyperemesis gravidarum. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Hyperemesis gravidarum. So it's hyper is too much of, heme is blood. So in the blood, too much in the blood, and then gravidarum is, I'm not sure. Tell us about it.
Okay, so it probably started about between the second and third month. I was nauseated, vomiting every day, more than once a day, all the time.
That sounds awful.
I never knew from one meal to the next what would stay down and what wouldn't. I would drive to school. I was teaching at the time. got pregnant in May, sometime in May. Boys were, both of them were born in February. And I would drive back and forth to school, and I would have to pull over a lot of times and throw up in people's yards. It was horrible. I had a big water thing I kept on my desk that I would drink water.
How long did that last?
9 months.
The entire 9
The
months?
entire 9 months,
You
both
threw
times.
up?
Pretty much every day, at least once. They had I can't remember the name of the pill that was on the market that they had just taken off because they thought it caused heart defects. And so there was really nothing they could give you. They gave me Phenergan suppositories, which, that made you really sleepy. So I couldn't take them unless I was at home. For the weekends, I would take that and kind of go to bed. So I never knew. Sometimes I would eat breakfast, I'd be fine. And then sometimes I'd eat breakfast and an hour or two later, it was coming back. So I can remember calling the doctor's office for the first, when I was so sick. And told the nurse on the phone. She said, "Oh, honey, I understand." She said, "Eat whatever you think you can keep down. It doesn't matter. Just if you think you can keep it down, eat it." She said, "M&Ms, anything." I don't know why she said M&Ms, but that's what
she probably liked M&Ms.
So, and of course I couldn't take the medication that they had taken off the market.
Because you just threw it up?
Huh?
Because you would just throw it up?
No, because they had taken it off the market.
Oh, I understand.
They thought it caused heart defects in children.
I see. Okay, I understand.
So they took it off the market. And then that was with Mitchell. And who's the oldest, every day. And I'd go to teach. Of course, I was teaching second or third grade at the time. And I can remember, it was kindergarten. I can remember them saying, moms would come in there bringing their children. "Oh, it gets better after this month. Oh, it gets better after that month. Oh, I felt so good." And I just wanted to just punch them. Yeah. I remember, "You just wait till you get to your 7th month. You'll just feel so wonderful." No.
They were trying to be encouraging.
I know.
It wasn't working.
It didn't work. So anyway, but the minute the baby was born, it went away. It's just like, your body reverts back to that, whatever. I got rid of. Now I know, Princess Kate now had that with hers, and they would put her in the hospital and give her IVs. I never had to have an IV. I was able to stay hydrated enough not to need something that drastic, but it was not a pleasant experience because you never knew. I mean, sometimes I'd be fine, and then I can remember going to my husband's grandmother 80th birthday party, and they had a big buffet. We went and I ate and I felt okay. And it was in Ashburn, which is 30 minutes, and got home. No sooner than I hit the house, threw up everything I'd eaten.
You sound, telling that story, you sound like it happened yesterday. Like you remembered how awful that was.
I can remember being at the mall for Christmas or shopping or something, and it hit me in the food court, and I go running in the bathrooms, it goes all over the stall. And at that time, they didn't have any paper products.
Oh, no.
They just had the blow dryers, and I was trying to, halfway clean up.
And there's nothing to clean up with.
I just had to leave it. I just was embarrassed. But it wasn't anything I could do.
Do you feel like women, this is a very deep question, really quick, so I'll give you time to think about it. Do you feel like having to be a woman, men can't have kids, so it's up to the woman, and right. You and your husband wanted to have kids. So you went through this whole process where you threw up every day, which is it's an activity that it's a body's natural response to something that just isn't working in the system. There's something going on. And so what was in the body is now out. So it's this feeling of like, well, it's gross. You feel like it's gross. Do you feel like that played any type of role in your psychology during that time, like you being in that stall and not having, what do you think that played?
Could I just know it was a long, because there were 4 years between each of my first one and my second one. And I know it's like, I can't do this again. I cannot go through that again.
Your mental,
Yeah.
your mental health
Yep.
would be at stake.
Yep. And I just felt I couldn't, I can't deal with throwing up and trying to have another child, add another child to look after. Can't do it. Can't do it. And I had a neighbor, we strolled our children in the neighborhood, and and there were 7 years difference between hers. But her reasoning was her daughter had a lot of crying and all this colic and stuff the first year. And she said, they weren't ready to do that again either. And finally convinced themselves to do it the second time. But she convinced me, every pregnancy is different. You may not do that again the second time. It was worse, if there's any such thing as worse. So because the second time I had a toddler to look after.
Right. Okay. So do you want anything else about Mitchell?
No.
Do you want to say anything about how he was born? Like what the delivery was like?
Delivery. So natural childbirth was a big thing back then. We had the classes for that, and went in, woke up at night. My water had broken. What's wrong? Why am I wetting the bed? We got up and went to yes, I know now. So go wake up Ken. Guess who has to get up? This is like 1 o'clock in the morning, and take a shower and shave before he could take me to the hospital.
How did you feel in that moment?
Oh, I was, you don't know with your first child, so you're anxious. I want to go. And my mother was working, still working in American Tobacco Company, and her shift was from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. She told me, she said, now, if you have to go to the hospital in the middle of the night, don't call me. Well, I reasoned myself, 1 o'clock's not the middle of the night. She stays up till 11 o'clock or so and goes to bed. So this is not, I called her.
Good. And then what happened?
Well, of course, she couldn't go back to sleep, and she ended up at the hospital the next morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so funny. She's like, if it's between this time and this time, don't call me. And you're like, cool. Well, technically, because you worked on this shift, I can call you now. So she came to the hospital.
She came to the hospital the next day, and Ken's mom came to the hospital the next day. Yeah.
Were you about to
see, it was the first grandchild for both sides. So
were you annoyed when he was like shaving and you're about to? I think I would have to
what are you doing?
I'm not sure.
Well, I'm going to be up. You're going to be up, and I'm going to be in the hospital. Yeah. But of course it didn't matter because, I'm going and having this is not too bad. And they gave me a shot of Stadol and
of what?
Stadol.
Okay.
And, you're having contractions, and of course it gets more intense. And, they kept checking me. Well, you're not progressing. You're not progressing. So they gave me Pitocin drip. And then they said, okay, you're ready to push. And I'm looking at that time, I loved the soap operas in the afternoons, all my children, and I'm going to be able to watch my soap operas. Push for 2.5 hours. Still no baby. So the
Did you get to
doctor,
watch your soap operas, or you didn't care because
no,
you were delivering?
I was in the middle of it, so no. And I can, because, and I can remember the doctor said, well, we're going to take you to the delivery room, because back at that time, you birthed in a birthing room. And we had done a hospital tour before the birthing room, before the delivery, and I looked, the birthing rooms were nice. They were more like a lot of, bedroom type situations. And we went I had never been in the hospital at that point. And so we go to the delivery room on the tour, and I looked at Ken, and I thought, I want to come in here. I don't like this. And so
What did you not like about it?
I just didn't like the feel of the operating room at all.
Did you
sterile? It was just, I just, like I said, I'd never been in the hospital, so
at all in your entire life?
No.
You have never been in the hospital your whole life?
Not by that time, no. The first experience I had was having a child.
Wow.
So,
see, I was in the hospital because at age 5, because my appendix ruptured. And then I've just been in the hospital for like different things. That's my story. I thought everybody else was like that. So this lady saying she has not been in the hospital all her life until she was 32, right? When
right,
gave birth
right.
to Mitchell. Okay, so continue. So you didn't like that. You were like,
I
this is
didn't
not
like,
organic.
no, I didn't like the look of the delivery room and all the instruments and everything. I don't like that. I just want to have my baby in the birthing room. Okay. So by that time they said, oh, it's time to go. I'm going to take you, and we're going to use forceps to help. Fine. I'm ready to jump up on the table and go. And Ken's over there. God, she said she didn't want to go to he's worried, and I'm going, let's go. Let's get this over with. Let's go.
You were saying, let's go to
The
the
delivery room.
Okay.
I was ready at that point. By that time, you could care less what happened. Anybody could walk in the room. You didn't care. The president of the United States could have walked in the room. I didn't care. I just wanted, it's that intense at the last little bit. So we went to the birthing room, and to the delivery room, and they used forceps, and he was born. So
how long were you in labor for?
let's see, I woke up about 1 o'clock. He was born the next afternoon at almost 3, 2:50 something. So what, 13, 14 hours?
Gosh,
But see, it's not, of course it progresses, you've got some here, and you're not hurting as bad. The contractions are milder, and then of course you progress on to a different stage, and it gets intense. And I think they had epidurals at that point, but they weren't a big thing. And I wanted to do the natural childbirth. So all I had was that one shot of Stadol, which it does not take the pain away as much as it just kind of makes you feel like, oh, well, it's there. I don't care. It's, it's more of a relaxant for the mom, not a pain relief. So that's how that one came. And then David, who was even worse, sick.
Okay, let's take a little break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Abigail Snyder's podcast, Her Anatomy. We have special guest, Janet Nelson. Her son, David, is one of my very, very good friends. So she just finished telling us about the 9 miserable months of having her first child, Mitchell, where she suffered from hyperemesis gravidarum. So she was throwing up every single day. And
at least once.
At least once. And just miserable. And her delivery was about 14, 15 hours with Mitchell. And she mentioned some of the things that they gave her to deal with the pain. So that's where we left off. So now she's going to tell us about David, her second child. So tell us about how many years between Mitchell and David.
There were 4 years. So I got pregnant when Mitchell was 3. And I had to be kind of convinced that that was going to be different. And it was different somewhat. I still had the sickness, but I also had excessive saliva. Nobody tells you this. You don't, I drooled constantly,
Stop.
constantly.
What do you mean? What?
I drooled. I just had saliva running excessive.
Like when you're talking to me right now, like if that was you, then
Just all the time.
were you aware when it was going to come on?
It was constant. I carried a towel, a hand towel with me everywhere I went to keep myself, yeah, even to church, everywhere.
What's that? Okay, I'll Google that later.
Yeah, you can Google it.
How long was that a problem?
It was later maybe after the second trimester when that started, and it went to birth. As soon as I had David, that went away along with the nausea. It's just like instantaneous.
What was it like the moment David came into the world?
Well, I knew better that you know a little more the second time. So we got to the hospital and I said, I'm not going to lay down in the bed like I did the first time. We're going to get this. And I had already been dilated and effaced somewhat. And, when my mother finally, Mitchell came 7 days before his due date, and David was 6.
Days early?
Uh-huh.
Mm.
So both of them I went about a week early. And so
were they vaginally birthed? Okay, so no C-sections.
No C-sections.
Okay.
And so the second time, so I said, well, with Mitchell, I didn't know any better, and I just climbed up in the bed and laid there the whole time. And so, I knew walking would help. So when I was pregnant with David, there in the 8th to 9th month, I would drop him off at preschool, and then I would go over to the mall and walk, trying to please let this baby come. So my mother finally decided she needed to come stay with us.
Wait,
So
you were walking around the mall for
inside, what? Just walking to help. It helps you efface. You know what effacement is? That's when your cervix thins and then dilate some. I was already over 3 centimeters dilated, and I was okay. I want this baby to come.
This is before. I thought this was after. Okay.
This was with David right about a couple of weeks before he was born.
Okay.
And I mean, my due date was with him. They're both February babies. His was the 28th, 27th, 28th. He came the 21st. When you've got another child to think about, and your husband works, and so I had my mother come and stay in the house with me. So if we needed to go to the hospital in the middle of the night, somebody would be there with Mitch.
Right.
So she came and spent the night with us. And
who stayed with Mitchell?
She did.
So she stayed with Mitchell, and then Ken went with you to the hospital?
Yeah, he went with.
Got it.
He was there for both births. He was in the room.
Okay.
And so we get there, and I said, I'm not getting, they check you in, and they check to see how far along you are and in the birth process. And so they checked me and said, no, you're not ready yet. And
how did you feel when they said you're not ready yet?
Usually.
Okay.
That and I said, well, can I walk around the hospital? And they said, yes, you can walk this amount of time and come back and we'll check you again. So we're walking around, and of course I'm having to stop and have contractions and then walk some more. And I came back and I said, I think it's time that I need a shot or something for pain relief. And they said, well, let us check you. I said, okay. Climb up in the bed and they check your cervix. And she said, sorry, you can't have anything. You're ready right now.
She said, right now?
Right now. They went and got the doctor.
Did it happen soon after that?
Yeah.
Woo! Sorry.
Yeah. So
That's exciting. So then
that's
you didn't have to be in labor for thousands of hours.
no. And so the doctor's down there, you're down there hurting, of course, and I'm going, I want something. And of course they're saying no, because at the
It's
last they don't give you anything.
Were you kind of annoyed that they
And
didn't?
so he said, well, you can't at a certain point. And anyway, he looked at the nurse, he said, I bet you've not seen many births like this. They give you an IV, no pain medicine, no this, no. I wanted to kill him. But anyway,
So wait, he said, I bet you've never seen a birth.
looked at the nurse and said, there are not many people who don't go in and you get in the bed, they put an IV in case you need the pit drip to move you along quicker, or you need pain medication or whatever. I didn't have that because when I got there, they checked me and I walked, and when I came back, I wanted it. It was too late.
So basically you're saying
I had nothing.
he was kind of like, you're lucky that it's going to be this quick, but you're like, but
Well, he's like bragging to the nurse that she's having a natural childbirth with nothing. No IVs
how did
included.
you, what did you feel when he said that?
No, I was not just get this thing over with. So he did look at me and say, I can numb your cervix for when you push. Do you want me to do that? It's like numbing your teeth. Fine, do it.
And do it quick.
And do it. He did that. So
Did that help?
yeah. And then they had instead of the forceps, they used the vacuum suction
Oh,
to help.
like kind of
When you're
guide.
pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened pretty quickly.
How long do you think that took?
Oh, let's see, probably maybe 4 or 5 hours
Hmm.
total. I mean, have waking up with contractions. We're timing them in the car on the way to the hospital. We get there. Of course, you go through all this check-in procedure, and they check you out to see how far along you are. So that was, a couple of hours there. And then I walked around the hospital probably close to 1 hour, just walking the halls around and around. And
Mm-hmm. That's what did it.
yeah,
Is
that's
walking
what.
around. Yeah.
So yeah,
Do you think
word
it,
to the wise: if you can walk, don't lay in the bed. I mean, they warn you, or did in Lamaze classes, don't just lay in the bed, and it's better if you're
moving?
yeah. And I know my daughter-in-law, when she had our grandson, the first one, those exercise balls that you
The
bounce.
stability balls. Yeah.
Yeah, they let her. She was out on the.
Yeah. Well, that's what we give my patients. I'm a physical therapist. Well, I'm doing my last clinical, and we get a lot of pelvic floor patients, which means we get a lot of pregnant patients. And I use that stability ball for almost like half their exercises. It's
Yeah.
a really good one. If you're listening and you're pregnant and you want to do just start with getting on that ball and just shifting your hips side to side. Just get that area moving. I can give you that for now, and then we can talk about some more exercises later.
Yeah. So
So would you say David's was harder than Mitchell because you didn't have the drugs? Or would you say because Mitchell's was so long, his was harder?
I would think his was harder because it was slower,
Yeah.
and you don't know what's going on, even though you learn, you take these classes, or you read, or you do whatever, you learn, the different stages, and they're coming in checking you periodically to tell you how far along you are and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. So, and I can remember with Mitchell, a lady came in. You can hear people out, in the halls sometimes. And this lady came in. So they called all the doctors and they're running. And she had been in earlier, and they checked her in the center home. Oh, you're not ready. And this was her third or fourth child, something. Oh, you're not ready. Go home and then come back. I mean, she didn't hardly get out of the hospital for. She had to turn around. They're get in here, get this. She's ready now. You need to. you could hear them in the halls running.
I'm just thinking when people tell whatever, me, whoever, like, you're being dramatic. What's wrong with being dramatic? This cannot be any more dramatic.
Well,
And giving birth to a human is the most
Okay, so shall
beautiful.
we be controversial? They don't listen to women. I don't know.
Yes, that's why we have this channel. Let's talk about that. What made you say that just now?
Because, she's had her third, she was on her third or fourth child.
Mm.
She comes into the, I'm checking in. I need to be in the birthing room. And they said, no, you're not now. You're not far enough along. You're not, after your third or fourth time, you should know enough yourself, your body.
So you think that they made a mistake by not listening to her?
Yeah.
When she was, okay, so she
even
was
though they
telling
checked
them.
her,
Mhm.
Even though they check you and everything, they said it wasn't enough time. She had a lot more hours to go. And they turned around, sent her, and I don't even think she got home before she was back.
So she was telling them, no, I'm telling you, like, I need to stay. I'm about to go into labor, but they just weren't listening to her.
They just weren't listening to her.
Mm.
Because when they did their cervix check, she evidently wasn't far enough along. They didn't think. But I'm assuming by the time you've had that many children, 3 or 4,
do you think
enough.
Do you think they would have listened to her if she was a man with a different scenario?
Maybe so. Maybe so.
You think that because she's a woman,
Well, and okay, so to be fair, most obstetricians at that time, there are more of them now that are women. You don't know a lot of things until you actually experience it and are in the middle of it. You agree?
amen to that. Yes.
You think you know.
You think you know, you're educated, but nothing compares to experience.
Right. Right. We all have those situations where we think we know and understand something, and until you get into it yourself, there are always differences. Some people follow the norm. Okay, this happens, and there are a lot of us. I would say the majority of us that's not the way the thing plays out, is it?
No. Yeah.
No.
I think the world would be a better place if we had a better that.
Well, back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or even longer, things were, okay, you go to high school, you graduate high school. You're supposed to go to college or do something or get a job immediately. You're supposed to get married in this amount of time. It's this perceived timeline that you're supposed to stick to. And I think now we're learning that that's not always the way it goes. I mean, look at the British. They go to school, graduate, and a lot of them have that, what they call gap year.
Between high school and college?
Between high school and college.
We need to get a gap year.
I fully agree with that.
I think the US needs to get a gap year. I think there's too many 18-year-olds that are going to college and they don't know what they want to do. I was one of them. I should have probably taken a gap year.
You think you know?
Well, I did. I was going to be an education major and I got into it my freshman year and it was not what I thought at all. Long story short, I was like, I don't want to do this. And so I was undeclared for a while. And then finally I was already taking out loans to finish. So I had to finish. And so I ended up majoring in theater. I know that really fits. So I got my degree, but I didn't know for a while. I didn't know what I was doing. And it probably just would have been better if I just took some time off. But I was also adamant about going to college. I could not wait. So,
yeah. I mean, and people now, some people are pressured to do that.
Yeah.
And neither one of my boys stuck with it.
David, I know.
He finally went back and got his associates.
He got his associate of science degree.
Yeah, associates in science.
He does not like
my oldest son did not. He had some classes at Guilford Tech and
but Mitchell has a beautiful family.
Yeah, well, that's what I say. He got a job working in logistics. And so he got on the job training. And he progressed with the company and then they got sold and He ended up going to work for a company that said, oh, he was working on a specific group, Haynes,
Mm-hmm.
and this other group bought him out. Well, we don't want to bring any of those people from the old group that we bought into our company. And
Hmm.
then they realized that they really needed somebody that knew all the ins and outs of Haynes. So he got that job. And then he worked to stay, and then they got bought out again. And anyway, eventually he decided it was time for look something else. And the job he has now, when he had all these years of experience. And when he read the thing, it said you needed a college degree, 4 years. But he interviewed and got it. And
That's
see,
impressive. I've heard this story, and it's so impressive every time I hear it
I,
because there is a misconception. There's huge. So we're right now, I don't know when you're going to be watching this, but it's September 19th, 2025, and Charlie Kirk was just assassinated last week. And I'm shook. I am like, I think about it every day. I'm so bothered by it. And one of the things why I'm bringing it up now is that one of the things that Charlie stood for was he was adamant about telling young people it is the most important thing to be able to think for yourself. And so he found a problem with a lot of these college students going to college just getting fed information and not really thinking about what they believe in. That's probably not as accurate as it should be because I have technically not read any of Charlie's books, but just from seeing some of his debates online, he thought it was a problem, so he decided to make a bit of business and a life choice going to these colleges and giving students a microphone and asking them like, what do you think of this? Or he basically went to debate them, and he knew that they weren't going to agree with what he was saying. He did it in a way that it was supposed to be something healthy, like it's okay that we disagree, let's talk about it. That was his approach. um, and because he found there was a problem with these students going to these colleges, and so he did something about it. And so it's interesting now that you're saying somebody like Mitchell, your son, he didn't even get a degree, and yet he's still been able to do
do
just
well.
fine, and he's not in student loan debt.
No,
College really isn't for everyone, is what I'm
no, it's
saying.
not.
I'm
And we need to go back to more. We have technical schools which teach, electricians, welders, all these things, different things
Mhm.
that you don't, it's not the same as a college, but it is a path to a, good paying job.
Mhm.
Um, but then there are those that do neither, but and advance. But you look at all the big ideas of a lot of the big companies now, some of those CEOs did not graduate from college. They came up with an idea, and
Who's what's one of them? Who's one of them?
Bill Gates
Oh,
didn't.
that's right, Bill Gates. And wait, wasn't it
Did
Steve
Bezos?
Jobs?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I don't know about Bezos, but
I
that
think I think Steve Jobs didn't get a degree. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
I know. No, I don't. But anyway,
Elon Musk?
life experience should count for some things.
A lot of
But
things, I would say.
yeah, but you don't want a doctor who hasn't had specific training. You don't want
Thank you. That makes me feel
teachers.
better because I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, but I'm also, it's because I'm about to get my doctorate of physical therapy. So I'll have a clinician, I'll have a license to practice treating people of all diseases and pathologies and injuries. So you're somebody like me, the path you want me to
Yes.
go to school and to take out whatever hardships I got to do to make sure I get the best training possible to give you the best treatment, patient care possible. So it just depends on who you are, I think is the
Well,
takeaway.
and what specifically you're doing too.
Right. And no, I'm not going to say that.
No. Anyway, so back to the pregnancy thing. So David was born quickly, and
Good job, David. He's not here, but
well, yeah, well,
we're in their house. They live in this gorgeous house. That's
uh,
It's like 4 stories.
And so Mitchell weighed 613 at birth. David weighed 88 and a half. So I jumped. Yeah.
Tell them what you were saying before about how your feet after you got pregnant. Tell us the things that happened after you got pregnant. Her
They don't tell you.
ribs.
Okay, so your rib cage expands normally. You need your lungs to be able to breathe for you and the baby and all these things. So my rib cage expanded, and between the two, I ended up having to go to a diet program to lose the weight between the two. And I was within 2 pounds of when I got married, not when I got pregnant, even less. And my shirts and things would not button.
It was just too wide.
My rib cage stayed, your rib cage does not go back to the smaller. My feet, there was a friend when I was first teaching, and of course, wasn't married at that point, and she was pregnant and with her first, and her feet were getting bigger, and she said, "Oh, your feet get bigger," and my shoe size changed, and it didn't go back, and I went, nah,
That ain't gonna happen
nah,
to me.
that's not. Guess what? Yeah,
You went from a
about
five and a half to a 6 or something now.
I went from 5.5 to 6 with Mitchell, from a 6 to 6.5, and now I'm between a 6.5 and a 7.
I feel like my feet gets smaller, but I didn't ever been pregnant. You're like, shut up. Seriously, I feel like my feet, to be honest, I think they've actually stayed the same.
Yeah,
I think they got small. I'm basing it off of this shoe size when I go try stuff on,
yeah,
but I'm still like, I'm like a size 10 and a half. That's big,
that's big.
but I'm tall. I'm 5'9". So
Just a little over 5. So, but these things you don't learn about unless you talk to other moms, other pregnant people, other people who experience such things. But I thought that was funny. Oh, your feet don't, I don't think your feet change. Well, they did.
well, they did.
And they do. I think that's a common. Well, of course, you weigh more, and when you're pregnant, and just expands.
Janet, thank you for taking the time to talk to us about everything.
Okay.
I have I think 2 more questions as we
Yeah.
start to wrap it up. I'm just really curious about, and this is kind of, I'm really curious. I want to ask you the question, what was your dad like? What was it like growing up with your dad? And can you tell us some of the things that he did?
My dad was, well, very exceptional. He never went to college. My mother can't remember if he graduated high school. He was what we used to call in the day a rounder. I mean, he was one of four. My grandmother had 3 daughters. He was the baby, the son, the only son. So, it's kind of like the baby, you get by with anything. Anyway, he had all these stories growing up. He married my mother. They were both, let's see, 20. No, my dad had just turned 21. My dad's birthday was January, my mom's December, the same year. So they got married in 42. And of course, World War II was going on. And um, when they got back from their honeymoon, basically, he was drafted. He had to go. So the first 2 years they were married, my dad was overseas in World War II.
The
And,
first couple years he was married, he
mhm.
was in fighting in World War II. Okay.
And my mother stayed with her mother and his mother while he and worked. She worked
Wow.
while he was gone.
Where's she work?
American Tobacco.
Okay.
That's where they met, I think, is American Tobacco. They
Okay.
both worked there. And so he was gone for 2 years. Then they came back, and he got back and started their life together, found some property, built a house. themselves. They actually did the work themselves, all of it.
That's where you get it
That's
from.
where I grew up.
And that's where you grew up, what they built.
They built the house, and
What was his military?
he was, I think he did two things. He was a mechanic and worked on the trucks and all the Jeeps, all that stuff.
Okay.
And then I understand he was also a cook.
Oh,
So he did both.
that's where David gets it from.
I guess.
David loves cooking. I love when David cooks for me.
Yes. So anyway, they get back and they went to did some trips and stuff, bought the property, built the house. And I was 11 years later before I came along. So, but my dad was, I was his little girl, his pride and joy, of course.
Mm.
And he was very, he could do anything, build things. Like I said, they built the house. He would fix things, do things like that. My grandma, his mother, had a farm, and we'd go out there. And of course, I always went everywhere he went. I went.
Mm-hmm.
So
You followed in his shadow.
yeah, to a certain point, of course, then you get to be. My mother, I can remember my mother when we had some kind of fuss. You're just like your dad. Yeah, I guess so.
I'm my father's daughter too. And everybody that knows my family, they're like, oh gosh, you're just like Joyce, my mom. But my family knows better. I'm just like my dad. Like I have my mom's social skills, and that's why they say that. But like I am so much like my dad.
Yeah. So
So
anyway, I was his pride and joy, of course. And we were,
that's how,
and
yeah.
so he ended up having a heart attack and dying 5 weeks before we got married. So he was not around he would have just been beside himself with grandchildren.
I'm sorry, Janet.
Yeah. So I ended up having to get my mother's brother, who was not, they didn't have any children or anything, but he volunteered to walk me down the aisle. So I did that. But yeah, that was hard. But so what else was it you want to know about?
Just taking in that moment, that must have been really hard.
It was,
Like just 5 weeks, that's just a month before
yeah.
you
In fact, my portrait, I was supposed to have my portrait done, wedding portrait done. He died on a Friday afternoon, and I was supposed to have my portrait done on Saturday. And I was teaching, so I was driving. That was before cell phones and all the stuff. Driven home the 30 minutes, 34. And a friend and I stopped at a local restaurant and had a end of the week toddy. and
yes.
and so it took us longer to get home. So my mother had gotten in touch with Ken, and he was waiting for me outside my apartment when I pulled up.
When you saw him, did you think that was odd?
Yeah,
And you were
I
like,
did.
something's
I was
up.
something's up. And so he's the one that had to tell me.
You know what's weird? When my sister died, my sister was killed by a drunk driver. We can talk about that in another episode, but she was my best friend. We were really close. I was actually out drinking with a friend, not drinking, just we were out at Jake's Diner Bar, Jake's whatever bar, when I got the call. Like what I'm seeing is like, it's like life balances out. God, like you went from like a celebratory moment to experience and taste how good life can be and joyful life can be because you're about to enter a very dark time. At least that's how I choose to see it. And that's all I wanted to say about that.
Anyway, so um, that was difficult. But and then the other question was there one more?
If there is one thing you can give our listeners that would give any type of advice. It could be something constructive, or it could be something that is philosophical or conceptual wise, something that would you feel would help our listeners in
Okay.
any topic and
Okay.
anything we've discussed.
There's always more to the story than you see on the surface.
Tell me more.
Okay. One of the things, and this is what resonated with me, what started my, understanding of you need to be in the moment, you don't, you think you know things about other people or other situations, but until you experience it yourself, a lot of times you don't know what's happening. And one example that I give is when I was teaching, the first year I had first grade, and the kids had kindergarten was not required, so not all of the children went to kindergarten. The ones that did had an open classroom situation where they were able to go from center to center and do all this stuff, where mine was more the old school. You sat in your desk and did your work, and then you went to groups and that kind of thing. Well, some of the kids had trouble sitting in their desks. And so a friend of mine, and that was before a lot of the you know,
ADHD became a thing.
yeah, became a thing. It was starting, but not, this was back in the late 70s. And so I had a friend, teacher friend that I had made that she worked with the exceptional children. And she lent me a book that she had that had some strategies in it. And one of the strategies was to take ribbon or whatever, and that's what I use, ribbon, and tape it to each side of their desk, under the chair, and tie a bow across their laps just to give them that, okay, I'm not gonna, I need to think before, and I always went through, okay, if you need to go to the restroom, the pencil sharpener, come to group, you just untape one side, or, most of them couldn't tie at that point. But, you untape one tie, do what you need to do, and come back. It's just a reminder.
It's what you're doing is you're giving them a tool that is for the purpose of because the problem is they're getting up out of their chair too much
And
so
wandering and
so
distracting other kids.
the
Right.
solution was you were like, I need to implement some kind of tool that's going to just be the stimulus to have them think before they actually get up, because sometimes they're getting up and they're not even aware of it.
Right.
ADHD. So she tied this ribbon like this, like just
And
had
I
it.
taped it. I taped one side, taped one piece of ribbon on the right side under the chair, one piece, so they could untape it.
And she gave them specific instructions on how to untape it. So
Yeah.
they knew how to, they weren't locked in.
They weren't locked in.
Yeah.
So several years, I got called up to the principal's office
Of course you did. Go ahead.
because the kids were going home and telling their parents that I was tying them in their chairs. Now, was I tying them in their chairs? Yes. But not with rope,
not what they were.
And that followed me for several years. I had a student whose his younger brother came, and his mother came and talked to the principal. This was several years after that, just so upset because Mrs. Nelson ties kids in their chairs, and we don't want that kind of teacher.
Gosh. It was like a rumor, basically.
Well, and it was a small school, rural.
It was a fabrication.
So they just, from the kids' perspective, yes, I was tying them in their chairs, but they didn't go through okay, it's ribbon. They can untie it. They can,
There wasn't a follow-up. There wasn't what you're saying,
you don't,
time where people tried to understand. Instead, they just chose to hear what they wanted to hear.
You're taking it from a 6-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, from their point of view, that's what I'm trying to say. Some people's point of view, I was tying them in their chair.
Did it work, by the way?
It helped, but I had to quit doing it because the parents were upset.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that rumor, that fabrication followed you?
Yeah, it
and
did.
You didn't feel like it was fair?
No.
Yes. You have a house phone?
Yeah.
You have a house phone.
Yeah.
Is that David?
Mhm.
On the
So anyway, that's how, yes, there was years ago before much TV, but there was a radio program that was done by Paul Harvey, and his thing was the rest of the story. So he would he would tell about some type of story like this, and then he would delve into the reasoning on what was really going on behind the scenes that you don't see or don't hear about or don't experience. So it was called the rest of the story. And that's what I would say. A lot of times this on the surface, looks one way, but when you hear the rest of the story, get the details, then it can change the perspective totally. And that's what I would like for to happen more and more and more, is to know the rest of the story. This is, okay, I did tie kids in their chairs, but I used ribbon and tape, and it was not, I didn't take a rope and tie them in so they were tied up. I was just giving them a reminder of how not to pop up out of their chair and run all over.
You were given a solution and
So,
it was taken out of context.
yeah.
I think that completely applies to the Charlie Kirk thing right now. I think I've been watching social media, the news, different things. And what I'm personally seeing is there is a massive miscommunication between the left and the right, between the conservatives and the liberals, the Republicans and the Democrats. And I think between both parties is guilty of it. I mean,
everybody's guilty.
Everybody. So I think that actually is the answer, is the key, is if we slowed down our conversation, if we lowered our tone, if we just forsaken our agenda, forsaked our agenda.
Anyway,
we'll come back to that. Forsook our agenda and stayed in the moment. That's what I think people are not doing. Like with some of these debates, is they're reciting lines that they've rehearsed because they want to get their point across. And they're missing the point that they have a person in front of them that might be asking them, is trying to get a connection. And
you don't know the rest of the story. That's it. That's just the rest of the story. You need to know. We hear it's just like headlines, and I'm guilty, as a lot of people are.
Same.
You see, they put headlines out there to get your attention, and unless you read everything that they write, sometimes you way down in the last. I'm guilty of just reading that or the first paragraph and moving on. And you don't get all the details. You don't get the rest of the story unless you spend time, which we're bad about.
We want everything now, instant.
Yeah.
But what we don't realize is every time we're doing that, we're actually forming an opinion in our minds. It's very subconscious. And I don't think we realize we're doing it. And so that over time, this accumulation, that's when we get people that are angry just out of nowhere. And it's because we're looking at some of these headlines, like she's saying, like that's like as an example, and we're forming opinions that we're unaware of, and we're hating each other.
Or you're listening to one side of the story and not hearing the other side of the story.
Yeah, that's so good.
You need, like I said, the Paul Harvey thing, the rest of the story is the best way to describe.
Less talking, more listening.
And understanding.
Empathy.
I always said, sympathy. Empathy is sympathy with understanding.
Empathy is sympathy with understanding. Yes, that's good. Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys. Everybody have a great day. Everybody be true to who you are, and just
always try to hear the rest of the story if you can.
The end.